Ravens training camp starts July 27th. You can get the complete camp schedule and read more about the Purple and Black with Joe Gladania's Ravens Report at PressBoxOnline.com. And welcome back to Inside PressBox. My next guest has been creating static on the Baltimore radio dial, the good kind of static, for years, but we're going to find him now and hear about him and his exploits on 105.7. We welcome back Jerry Coleman. And Jerry, one of the first things I have to ask you is, how do people know when Jerry Coleman is on? Because do you have a set day part over there?
I do. It's a morning drive.
Okay, you are now officially part of Morning Drive.
I am. First broadcast, and thanks for having me back. And no static at all on the FM, Stan, as Steely Dan once said.
Good point.
5:40 a.m. is my first broadcast, 6:20, 40 after, top of the hour, et cetera, through the 10 a.m. And then it's out to cover the Ravens, the Orioles, or whatever's going on locally.
I'm a big fan, Jerry. Seriously, does this give you enough of a palette to have your opinions out there? Because you're one of the most opinionated in a world of sports talkers that don't stand out. You, to me, stand out.
Well, I do have to control myself at times when I present the news and not try to editorialize it and give my opinions every other sentence. That's not really the job of the sportscaster in that sequence to do that. But there are moments through the Norris and Davis show where I do have a chance to express my opinion, and I'm grateful that the station has given me the opportunity to do that, because that's something I enjoyed in some of the former formats that I've been a part of, but I also enjoy getting out in the field and covering the athletes and the teams.
You do that as well. Tell me a little bit about your perception of the Orioles right now.
Well, they've overcome everyone's expectation. I mean, only the diehards saw them doing this well heading into the All-Star break. Obviously, no one saw them having a winning record. When you looked at the roster and the pitching rotation that they had put together, it was sensible to think that this team could lose between 90 and 100 games. It's been a remarkable turnaround. All the credit in the world to Buck Showalter. Dan Duquette's done a terrific job of assembling this pitching staff and this roster, and they've had to make do with a lot of injuries this season as well. So far, so good. Will it last? I'm not optimistic they're going to be in the playoffs, but they're taking a step in the right direction this year.
Question. Dan Duquette, Buck Showalter. A lot of people thought that they would get along like oil and water.
I was one of them.
I feel that they kind of know that they need each other, because this is kind of like, both of them are considered very good baseball people for what they do, but yet they also were considered sort of trouble, a little high maintenance. And I think they're chipping in together to really work through some things.
Well, let's be honest, both were in exile for a while from the game of baseball, and they have come together and formulated a great partnership here. And it was a little weird the way that they were put together, and the fact that Buck had the job before the GM got the job in Baltimore. Usually it's the other way around. So far, so good, and the winning obviously breeds a lot of success and a lot of harmony.
Now, I know you, back in his playing days and near his post-playing days, Brady Anderson and you were pretty good friends. I know you covered Brian Roberts a good while. What do you make of the comeback and the sort of stumble in this comeback? Do you think we may have seen sort of more or less the last of Brian Roberts?
He came out after the injury and with a burst of speed there with a couple of hits, 3 hits in that first game, and then he's just slowed down tremendously and found himself back on the DL as we speak. I think we have seen the best of Brian Roberts. I still think there is something left in the tank, though, but he is so injury prone, you just can't count on him on a regular basis. It's a shame because he's so talented, and it was an amazing thing for him to overcome the concussions. And listen, he had a very bad attitude in spring training. He wasn't sure what his future was going to be. It's been incredible to see him come back and play at the major league level, but I do agree. I think his best days are behind him.
Now, if I was having you in here about 2 months ago, we probably, if we talked about Adam Jones, we probably would say the Orioles would be about ready to trade him about now. They did a quick about face where Dan Duquette had been saying, well, we don't like to negotiate during the season, and all of a sudden, within 3 days, they got a big deal done with Adam Jones. I applaud them for doing it. What do you think moved them to change their tune?
I think every once in a while, despite what you may hear on local sports talk radio or in the media, the Orioles do put their finger in the wind and see which way it's blowing and see what the fan base is feeling. And they were feeling that the fan base wanted Adam Jones signed long term. They stepped up and did that. He has stepped up on his end. He hasn't missed a beat, doesn't miss a game, doesn't want to miss an at-bat. He's a guy you want on your team. He wanted to be here in Baltimore with the Orioles. There aren't a lot of guys that you can say that about. So I think it's a perfect match on both sides, and I'm grateful the Orioles went ahead and did that. As an Orioles fan and a guy that covers the team, he's fun to cover.
Hey, when we worked together over at the other station, you had sportswithcoleman.com.
Yes.
Is that still up? I'm told it is.
It is.
You got a piece on Jim Thome up?
Absolutely. You can find the latest on Jim Thome coming to Baltimore at our own little website there, sportswithcoleman.com. Also tweeting at SportsWColeman. Always looking for followers out there on the Twitterverse as well at sports, the letter W, Coleman.
All right.
You're tweeting too, Stan. I'm following you.
I tweet a little bit, not nearly enough. Hey, last question. We got about 45 seconds. Joe Paterno, this news about these emails, it's become quite clear that Joe was orchestrating some of the cover-up over at Penn State.
You'd have to be blind not to
Yeah.
realize that he was a part of it. It's such a small, tight-knit community. Of course he knew what was going on. You wonder what Maryland knew when they interviewed Jerry Sandusky for their head coaching job for football years ago. A lot of people swept this under the carpet when it shouldn't have been done that way, and now they're paying the price.
Should the statue be removed at Penn State?
That's a tough call, one I would not want to have to make. I'd have to dig a little deeper and find out how much influence he did have, but it could be a consideration there. And boy, I wouldn't want to be there when they dig that thing up. My goodness.
Right. Jerry Coleman,
thanks, Stan.
Many thanks. Sports with Coleman, he was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he still came into tape tonight. Thank you, JC.
Good night.
We'll wrap things up with the photo of the week next, so don't go away. Go to PressBoxOnline.com and register a youth team in your community for a chance to be highlighted as the PressBox Youth Team of the Month. Sponsored by Sports Authority. Go to PressBoxOnline.com for all the details.